This course is all about increasing independence. It's quite an interesting one because for some of our kids, we feel that they're too independent. They don't feel that they need help with anything. And for other children, we feel like we don't have a moment to ourselves because our kids need us for every single thing throughout every single day. My name is Nanette. I studied to be a teacher quite a few years ago. I've been in the field of special needs and particularly autism since 2009. And I also have 3 young children myself. So in this module, we are going to speak about different things related to independence in our children and increasing independence when that is necessary. Because it's in some instances, it is necessary to increase independence in our kids. And if you have a child who is still young, don't think that this is not for me now. I don't need to increase independence in my child. She's only 3 or 4 or 5 years old. But it is important to start with certain simple things, developmentally appropriate things from a young age to teach them those strategies that they are going to need to increase independence. So in this mini course, we're going to look at the following topics. When we as parents just need a break, and how we can teach our children to basically keep themselves occupied for a minute or 2 or 5, depending on our kids, of course. When we need a break, we need our kids to be able to play independently for a moment. Then, what if my child wants me to do everything? That's tricky. If our kids don't want to be independent, they seem to want to be dependent on us for everything. How do we handle that? How can we break that cycle, that pattern, that expectancy even? And how can we get some interest going in them and need or want to be independent with certain things? But we'll share those strategies with you. Then self-help skills. How can we increase independence in our children with age-appropriate self-help skills? Creating boundaries through freedom. That sounds strange, but this is something that we can and should do with our children, starting to teach them about boundaries and setting up their own boundaries for their own safety as well. It's a bit of a process, but we can teach them how to do that. We don't want to always have to set up strict boundaries for our children. We want them to also get to the point where they learn how to and why they need to set up certain boundaries for themselves. This is what we want to teach you, those practical, easy to implement strategies so that our kids can learn to create their own boundaries through a certain amount of freedom. And then the last one, and this is sort of on the opposite end of the scale. What if my child is too independent? They're too independent. They seem to not have any idea of they should be dependent on me for something. They're too independent. They want to go off by themselves. They don't perhaps see the safety concern that has to do with that. But what do I do and how do I handle it? How do I change it if my child is perhaps too independent? So if this is something that you feel that you can and need to learn a little bit more about, remember, we feel very strongly about sharing practical, functional strategies with you as parents and teachers, things that are effective and easy to implement in everyday life. We understand that parents are parents and we're busy, and many of us work and many of us are stay-at-home parents perhaps, and we don't have a lot of time available. That is why the strategies that we share with you, we need those strategies to be effective for you, for your family, and for your child. So let's go and learn about increasing independence in our children, even from a young age.